Welcome to today's NASC Preferred Supplier webinar, Understanding Green-Lipped Mussel Ingredients, Composition, Processing, and Label Transparency. And now it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Dr. Paula Jo PJ Broadfoot, DVM, is a licensed veterinarian with more than 4 decades of clinical, consulting, and educational experience, with a long-standing focus on integrative and wellness-oriented veterinary care. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Animal Science and Industry with an emphasis in genetics from Kansas State University, where she was elected to the Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society. While at K-State, she was active in the K-State Horse Club, rodeo team, and competitive barrel racing, which contributed to her early interest in animal performance, soundness, and long-term well-being. She graduated cum laude from K-State University College of Veterinary Medicine in 1981. Following graduation, Dr. Broadfoot founded a veterinary practice in Van Buren, Arkansas, where she began exploring nutrition and complementary approaches to support animal health. And over the past 18 years, her work has evolved toward a holistically oriented model emphasizing proactive wellness, resilience, and integrative care strategies. She has consulted for global animal health and nutraceutical organizations, has lectured internationally, and has authored and co-authored articles and books, including Integrating Complementary Medicine into Veterinary Practice and the Efficacy of Velvet Antler in Veterinary Practice. Dr. Broadfoot is married to her K-State classmate, Jeff, and they have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. And now I will turn things over to Ben Winters with Aroma New Zealand for a brief company overview, and then Dr. Broadfoot will begin presenting. Ben, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Firstly, just like to welcome everyone to this NASC presentation. A big shout out to the team there for allowing us to go ahead and do this. So really looking forward to it. First and foremost, I hope everyone can understand my New Zealand accent, so I will try and talk as slow as I possibly can. So let's just kick it off. Regulatory disclaimer. This presentation includes examples of ingredient level research and claims, and is for educational and information purposes only. The contents of the presentation should not be interpreted as allowable labeling or marketing claims. Some claims shown may not be permitted on finished animal health supplement labels, as any claims that imply the treatment, cure, mitigation, or prevention of disease would cause a finished product to be regulated as a drug under FD&C Act. All right. So now we've got that out of the way, I won't spend too much time on the agenda. You can all see it there, but really I'm just going to kick off straight into the Aroma New Zealand background, and then PJ will take it away after that. So yeah, look, first foremost, it's a pleasure to be here this morning, New Zealand time, obviously the afternoon there in America. Aroma New Zealand, so yeah, it's been a journey, it's been a big journey. We've been around for 65 years. And obviously, our expertise and background is all based around marine farming, hence the Green-Lipped mussels. Proudly family-owned business. I am 3rd generation. Company was founded through my grandfather back in 1961, so it's going back a few years. Mussels is basically in our DNA. We've been mussel farmers for a long, long time. We've got a big geographic spread of our own mussel farms. And proud to say that by having our own mussel farms, we control quality right from farming right through to presenting mussel powder to your warehouses and finished products. We have our own, so when I say mussel farms, that involves we also have our own aroma aquaculture mussel harvesting vessels. So we have around 4 vessels that are out daily on the water. We have a very expert team. We have a very good marine farming expert team who have had over like 40 years experience in marine farming. So we've got the best team working at Aroma Aquaculture. So another big tick. So being vertically integrated, we bring the mussels into our factory. We have our own drying facilities where we then present Green-Lipped mussel powder, which we'll be talking about today. And of course, we've got the facility to produce Green-Lipped mussel oil, which we export to over 40 countries around the world. And as we're seeing, there's a huge demand for GLM worldwide. We export to all countries from Europe, USA, Southeast Asia, etc. And the territories keep increasing because the product has become very popular. Yeah, look, and once again, look, we're very happy to be associated with NASC as a preferred supplier. For us, it's all about quality and presenting quality to our clients through education. And then, as we know, over the last 60 years, quality speaks for itself, and reputation is obviously, that's our number one policy, is having a very good reputation, but you can only do that by providing high quality premium ingredients. So look, that's enough from me, and hopefully I'll see you later at Q&A. But in the meantime, over to you, PJ. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to say really quickly that this particular substance changed the way I practice medicine. I started using it probably in about early 1980s. Got out of school knowing that non-steroidals had some issues. And so I was looking for something more natural. So when this ran across my radar, it kind of filled in all the gaps that I needed. So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between full fat and defatted green lip mussel, Perna canaliculus, and why it matters. So without further ado, what's inside the full fat green lip mussel? So it naturally contains glycogen protein. It's actually the original peptide. That's the big biohacker thing now, is the peptides. So it's actually one of the original peptides probably used in medicine. It has glycosaminoglycans. It has 9 glycosaminoglycans. So it is literally a full plate. They have actually used the components of that to build scaffolding to grow stem cells, the different components of the glycosaminoglycans. So that may kind of give us a clue why it has such capability of supporting and repair tissues. It has free amino acids. It has at least 30 natural fatty acids. I've actually read in years past that there was up to 53 identified fatty acids in the green lip mussel. Primarily the ones that we have looked at are EPA, DHA, ETA, which is eicosapentaenoic acid, is a rather novel fatty acid, and it has some really, really strong components for alleviating some discomfort. So it has a rather large component of minerals, and it has vitamins. So I call it a full plate. It's the body can pick and choose what it needs to repair. The mechanisms of action of those different components support not normal inflammatory pathways, comfort during normal activity, healthy Cox-Lox activity. Those are the those are the inflammation markers. It helps to moderate those. It helps to nourish the connective tissue. Those components that we talked about, the 9 glycosaminoglycans, are all components of those connective tissues. They make up the connective tissue bonds. It has some immune modulating properties, and it helps with oxidative balance. So one of the things that we want to talk about is the labeling that is inherent in this product, because you can get 2 different forms, and most people are not even aware of that. Even people in the industry are not necessarily aware of that. So we're bringing that up because green lip mussel is used a lot in pet supplements. I see it in dog foods sometimes, and most people are not even aware that there's 2 distinctly different green lip mussel powders. So there are no labeling rules at this point in time that require that disclosure. So the goal should be clarity and label transparency. So if you look at the full fat GLMP, there is 8 to 12% lipid content. The defatted powder has less than 2%. And that's a big difference when you're talking about the usefulness as a support formula. There's almost none of the ETA, EPA, DHA. There's low amount of GAGs. The glycosaminoglycans are lower in the defatted powder. The synovial fluid support, there's studies that show that is improved, that it improves it. You need you really need the full plate. The body needs to be able to pick and choose what it needs. And mostly the anti-inflammatory activity is mostly taken out when you remove the fats from the muscle powder. So as an analogy to that, NASC requires accurate chondroitin sulfate declaration. So 200 milligrams, if it says 200 milligrams of chondroitin sulfate on a label, that means active, not raw material. And green lip mussel has kind of a similar integrity issue. The lipid is what determines the integrity of that product. So why does it matter? Well, the full fat green lip mussel has 8 to 12% lipids. The defatted GLM has less than 3 to 4. And so one of the fastest authenticity markers is going to be the percent of lipids in that finished product. So the green lip mussel kind of inhibits enzymes that are destructive. It helps to downregulate inflammation. These are studies that have been done, so they can be they can be integrated into medicine because they are known to have research studies. There's actually years and years and years of research on the green lip mussel, on the Perna canaliculus. I saw the first studies in probably in the early 80s, the New Zealand study on arthritis. And now we have a lot more mechanism of action studies. Back then they were just like, they were clinical. How well did people do that were on the green lip mussel? But now we have so much more data that shows what the mechanisms are. So what are the consequences then of defatting? So when you remove the fat, you take the lipid soluble constituents that are actually the big part of the inflammatory balance. So there's a fat water matrix that is incorporated by the body. There's a lipid protein peptide environment. So there's a big difference in the biochemical diversity when you start removing part of that full plate that we need for the body to heal. So defatting takes out lipid-associated signaling mediators. It takes out antioxidants. It removes support for peptide activity. And so we lose some of the synergy between all of those components. The mechanisms of the full-fat green lip mussel do not apply to defatted material. They are not the same thing. You need the synergy if you want to get all the components that are necessary for repair. So one of the things that has been studied and is really important are what's called the matrix metalloproteinases. They are critical in controlling the inflammatory response. So they are actually enzymes that are zinc and calcium dependent that help to degrade components of the extracellular matrix. And in an injury, that is necessary to kind of clear out the trash and make way for the repair to occur. However, if that goes unchecked, you get constant degrading of like the cartilage matrix, the collagen matrix. When that happens, the repair stops and you end up losing some of your cushioning of those joints. So you get more and more and more accelerated cartilage degradation. Those MMPs cannot be overstated as far as their importance. So the whole muscle extracts are widely researched. They are used for discomfort. There's joint support. Part of that includes a healthy response of those matrix metalloproteinases. So studies show that this correlates with less cartilage damage, healthier inflammatory response, and improved joint mobility. So the part of the actives that are critical to the MMP activity are those polyunsaturated fatty acids, the ETA, EPA, DHA, the unnamed 30 plus others that we know for sure that are in there. So Another thing to be said, there is an evidence gap. There are no clinical trials that I know of on the defatted green lip mussel. All the trials have been done on full fat. So, you can't compare them. They're not comparative. So there's no known trials on the defatted powder, and you cannot assume an equivalence. So there is a research gap. So defatted green lip mussel actually is a byproduct because the fatty acids are actually a fairly well known, fairly researched, fairly well advertised component of the green lip mussel. So what's left over when you take them out is the defatted JLM. So it's what's left after the oil is taken out. So it's not optimized for nutrient retention. It's kind of one of those ingredients that people throw in there. It looks really good on a label, but is not necessarily not getting what you think you're getting. So that is a little bit can be misleading to the general public, and I think that's a big issue. And as someone who's used this particular supplement for over 40 years, I think it's important that's disclosed. People should know that they are getting the full plate, or if they're getting only a partial ingredient list, if you want to call it that. So we want to look at the identification. As I said, green lip mussel is a byproduct. Full fat GLM is 8 to 12%. Lipids, full matrix, has the glycosaminoglycans, it has the minerals, it has the full spectrum of nutrients that are in that Perna canaliculus. It has a natural marine aroma. My granddaughter helps me give it to my dog every morning, and when she's here, and she looks for the stinky stuff. She likes the stinky stuff. So the defatted green lip mussel has far less lipids. It's missing constituents. It is not validated in research, as we just said a minute ago. It's a lighter color and a weaker aroma. You can definitely smell Perna when it's the full grouping. So how to identify quickly? You can check the lipid percent on it. You can look whether it says CO2 extracted on the label. You can evaluate the color and aroma. You can compare the cost. It should be less expensive if you have just the defatted powder. And you want to look at the review specifications for that. So it is the Swiss Army knife, does lots of things that you can't even cover all of them, actually. It's multi-fraction. It has multi-pathways. It's research aligned, lots of research on it. I've seen research on animals for 20 or 30 years now. It does things other than what it is commonly known for, which is joint comfort. And there's a lot more research going into it beyond joint health. There's actually a study a couple of years ago that showed that it could potentially improve the microbiome, which is one of those big buzz studies now. Everywhere you look, they're talking about the microbiome, and it can actually help balance that out. And actually, the animals that have or people that have problems with, post non-steroidals, actually get some improvement because of those glycans and the fatty acids in their integrity of their gut lining. Ask me how I know. So the benefits then of the powder are it's stable, it's palatable, it works in chews, powders, capsules. We have used all of the above in the past. And it has things that improve things as diverse as joint, skin and coat, gut, brain, cardio, immune, and seniors. They have actually shown some evidence that if you intervene in animals that have a propensity towards joint issues down the road, joint dysfunction, that you can head that off if you add the Perna to their diet. So it can support prostaglandin pathways, normal histamine levels, oxidative balance, connective tissue nourishment, lots of stuff in there, those glycosaminoglycans, and it supports the healthy COX-LOX levels, which are the biggest markers that we are aware of for inflammation. So the oil then. It's unique. It's a potent lipid matrix. It has benefits in and of itself, which is why it's become a pretty big industry thing just by itself. It provides at least 30 fatty acids, some rare long chain fatty acids, that eicosanotetranoic acid you see almost nowhere else in nature. It has a rapid dispersion within the tissues. It has low inclusion rate that's required, and it strengthens the lipid phase support in the different formulas. So it helps with the COX-LOX levels. It helps with the prostaglandin mediation, as we talked about earlier. Things like the MMPs are critical to this. It improves the immune tone, the ones that are based on fatty acids. It has lipid-soluble antioxidants, cell membrane fluidity and signaling. The cell membranes are made up of fatty acids, and that signaling that goes across those membranes has to be maintained by a healthy degree of those fatty acids. It complements water phase green lip muscle mechanisms for a much broader support than we sometimes give it credit for. So there are people that are actually combining the powder plus the oil. So you get the balance of the powder, you get the multifraction, you get water phase activity, and then the oil kind of pushes the lipid phase and contributes some of those fairly rare fatty acids that you see nowhere else. There was actually one study that showed that it was the ETA was probably maybe 300 times more potent than salmon oil as an anti-inflammatory. Sorry, I thought I put my phone on flight mode, and evidently I didn't, and it's my daughter calling me. So it completes both halves of the muscle's natural matrix. It's ideal for advanced formulas, and you get enhanced joint mobility and improvement in senior wellness, which is where we started using it initially, was in older dogs that just virtually couldn't get up anymore. And I'm going to tell you, when they do, it changes the way you format your thinking. When you've gotten to the end stage, and that's the last thing before they're going to put that dog down. And I have seen it now for over 40 years. So it's not an either or proposition. You can actually use them together, and you can add, if you want to broaden the spectrum or deepen your ability to repair, you can actually add the oil and the muscle powder together. So now we'll talk about some of those other applications. So you see, beyond the joint and mobility things, you get some improvement in skin and coat. Those fatty acids are critical. It improves the gut balance. As I said earlier, there have been some studies that show that it improves microbiome. It improves the immune tone. And there's actually some really interest. When I was studying this, there's some interest now in some of these novel fatty acids for things as diverse as Alzheimer's and ADHD, and we certainly have a epidemic of those issues in the population at large. It can improve cardiovascular wellness. You talk about the COX-LOX enzymes when they talk about like cardiac issues, and then it improves senior vitality. And our goal is suppliers or veterinarians or practitioners is to improve not just the quantity of life, but the quality of life, and that is critical to us. And if we can keep them more comfortable for longer, the owners are infinitely grateful. So there's evidence. So they've done dog and equine studies for years. The earliest ones I saw were actually force plate studies, and I think they were done in Canada, that showed that it improved the animal's ability to take concussion on their joints. So one of these extracts is fairly well studied, called it's Biolane. And there are several studies that have showed that it was effective. There was a Japan study with 43 dogs and 6 cats, with a 93% improvement in the animals, and 37% showed significant improvement. And we're looking at, a lot of these animals are really dysfunctional. So if you can improve them at that level, it's impressive. The New Zealand studies on humans were really impressive for people that had basically failed other conventional therapies. So you saw improvements in mobility, stiffness, discomfort. Then there was a study done by Massey University. They had 81 animals with 66, almost 67% improvement. Only 40% of those animals improved on placebo. Of course, that depends a lot on what the owners perceive on those patients as well. Zero adverse events. I know that if you have an allergy to shellfish, you could potentially have a problem. In 40 some years, I've never seen that in an animal. Never seen a sensitivity whatsoever. And then there was a study in '01 on food supplemented green lip mussel extract, where they did 31 dogs, saw significant improvements on joint health assessment scores. So particularly strong improvements in indicators that are associated with joint comfort and joint condition. So the Biolane full fat green lip mussel provides multifraction, a strong matrix, supports normal joint and connective tissue physiology through multiple pathways, the balancing the Cox-Lox, support for prostaglandin signaling, supporting normal histamine pathway levels, immune tone support, the MMP pathways that we talked about earlier. If you have to downregulate the amount of destruction, otherwise it continues unabated, and then you end up with joints that don't have the cushion anymore. So the naturally occurring gags, cellular resistance within the joint tissues, and the gastrointestinal tolerance is pretty high. When I started taking it 35 years ago, almost 40 years ago, I had terrible gastrointestinal stuff from taking nonsteroidals, and the worst thing that happened to me is I burped it. So I need a piece of toast over the top of it. But I am telling you that at that point in time, I could feel every joint in my fingers in the wintertime, and I could hear my knees when I walked up and down stairs. That went away within a couple of months. And so I've been taking it for about nearly 40 years now. So you see improved comfort, you see decreased inflammation, you see better mobility patterns, you see great toleration, particularly in the dogs, and most of them will eat it, which is good. With horses, you get an improved stride, you get a balanced response, you get connective tissue support, and the same things apply to cats. I will tell you that one of my horses many years ago had a horrific injury to a hawk, and I was told that he would have to have surgery. And he was one of the first horses in the Adequan injections, and I put him on the green lip mussel. And a year later, he made the 100-mile Okie and he never looked back. He was sound to the end of his days. That was pretty impressive if you could have seen the radiographs on him. So, label verification. This is a little bit of a review. Summary: full fat versus defatted. It's a multi-fraction. It's well researched. The defatted has an altered composition. The lipid percent is what we use to determine the authenticity of that product. And transparency matters. So, you don't, you want your clients, your patients, your to feel like they are getting the best thing for their animals. When we send something out, I want to make sure it has everything in it that animal needs to make them more functional and more comfortable, and improve their longevity if we can do that. How to verify this is a little bit of a review. Check the lipid percent. Ask about the CO2 extraction. You want to review your color and aroma densities. It should smell like green lip mussel, like Perna canaliculus. You want to confirm your identity markers, and you want to be able to ensure full traceability if you're using it in your products. So, key takeaways then: full fat does not equal defatted. They are not the same thing. Their mechanisms are different. They can be complementary, but they are different. There is a evidence gap in the defatted. So if someone is claiming that they have green lip mussel, it needs to be the one that has the full plate. The powder has multiple pathways of action, which we've discussed. The oil is a lipid phase potency, and it is valuable in and of itself. So the lipid percent is what tells you if the label has what it claims. So, do we have any questions?
Thank you, Doctor. First question, what is the process to quantify the amount of EPA and DHA in green lip mussel?
Okay, that's a Ben question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, once we produce the green lip mussel powder, we always send it off batch by batch to a third-party independent lab. They will obviously test the amount of EPA, DHA in the GLM. So that's we do that with every batch before it's released. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, that's EPA, DHA we always test. It's part of the omega-3s, and of course we test the lipid, as PJ's highlighted throughout the webinar.
Thank you very much, Ben. Given that the full fat GLP has a stronger smell, what recommendations do you have for helping to solve the palatability issues?
You want me to take that one, Ben?
Go for it. Yeah.
Honestly, we have used it since probably 1983, and even horses will eat it. You would think that they would be picky, but we didn't have trouble getting it down horses. You're always going to have some dissenter in the bunch that does not want to eat whatever it is. But that is surprisingly enough, we really don't see a lot of palatability issues, even though it has a strong odor. When we open the green lip mussel powder at the clinic, we can smell it. In humans, they coat them or put them in capsules, and that kind of mitigates the smell a little bit. Like I said, I burped it when I first started taking it. It was not really all that pleasant, but I'm telling you, within days, I had mobility back in a shoulder that I was locked up. And so I've been hooked ever since. And it doesn't, I don't even taste it anymore. But one time I certainly did.
Just on that, PJ, yeah, obviously when dogs, cats do get a little bit fussier in the later years, you'll see a lot of brands will obviously mix GLM with a hydrolyzed chicken or some form of animal liver, offal. You see a lot of beef liver,
Mm-hmm.
smoky bacon, all these sort of flavors. So they all come into play as well. They definitely they will help, yeah, with the fussier pets.
Yeah. Yeah, there are things that can kind of moderate the smell a little bit, but it honestly, we've just had very few over the years that have been a problem, and we probably started using it in 1983. So
Just an aside to that question, Dr. Broadfoot and Ben, Is there ever an instance where that strong smell is an attractant to an animal? I mean, it's off-putting to people for sure, but that strong smell is, do you find ever that that is something that animals, especially dogs, are attracted to?
Yes, a lot of them are. A lot of them are very attracted to it. Doesn't attract me, but it works. So, but yeah, no, there are a lot of patients, and their cats are a little more difficult. They're just they have more discrete tastes. But as a general rule, I think the dogs actually do like it. The things that we have that have had the perna in it over the years, we very seldom get dissenters in the canine, and I think they probably are attracted to. A lot of them are attracted to it.
And I mean, Bill, just to add to that, to finish off on that one, I mean, you'll see a lot of brands in the market today which are 100% GLM, and that's the proof's in the pudding, so to speak. Dogs do like the natural taste, the flavor of GLM. It's a
Yeah,
natural form. Okay.
yeah, we've had some straight Perna tablets, and that's all that's in them, and the dogs will eat them. So with no other flavoring.
Very good. Thank you. Any contraindications to use in senior dogs with idiopathic seizures?
Well, that is a good question, but I would say that more than likely the answer would be it would be more helpful than not. For one thing, the down ramping of the inflammatory response, it can be really, really useful. There's a gut-brain highway that is being studied all the time. The microbiome has some components in that I think are factors that we kind of have overlooked. I have not seen it to ever be that it has made any seizure issues worse. Now that, I'm sure there's always going to be somebody that could possibly, but there's nothing in it really that should be a problem. In fact, when you look at some of those components of the um, like the glycosaminoglycans, they can actually help support gut integrity, and that can downrate just the amount of junk that ends up in the system that is overloading the brain. And if they're looking at it for Alzheimer's and ADHD, then it has to have some brain protective activity. So, you have anything to add to that, Ben? That's a tough question because you don't really. Those are kind of outliers, but we get a fair number of animals that have seizures, and we have successfully given them perna for years. So
No,
You.
thank you.
Next. Oh, I'm sorry, Ben. I think I cut you off.
No, I've got nothing further to add on that question. Thank you.
All right, very good. Um, Next question's in two parts. What is the recommended dosage for dogs? And is there a difference between a therapeutic dose and a preventative dose?
probably the answer to the latter question, there probably is. Preventive doses are you can usually start with lower doses, and they're kind of a little bit all over the map. But let me kind of tell you what we have used over the years. We have used like the 300 milligram, um, generally like once or twice a day for dogs probably under 40 or 50 pounds. We when we first started using the Perna many years ago, we had a dog that all we had at that point in time was 300 milligram. It was an Australian Shepherd, and she'd gotten older and had gotten kind of dysfunctional. And when they came out with the 600 milligram, I offered that to them because it was less expensive. You were giving less. They said no, she counts them. She wanted three. She wanted three of them, and she was going to have three, or she was going to drive him crazy. So they bought 300 milligrams till the end of her days because she wanted three of them. She was probably about a 55 or 60 pounder. But we were giving it to her as a dysfunctional dog, not as a preventive. The preventive ones, my dog is on it now. He's 5. He's a ball of fire. But I want him to stay that way, and he gets probably somewhere around 600 milligrams a day.
Thank you. What should retailers look for when looking to bring a green lip mussel product to their shelves?
Well, that's a partial question actually for Ben. So they make some really nice combinations that are available over the counter. You want like we talked about, I have not I have looked at a lot of these, and I can't tell from the labeling if they're fatted or defatted, and that concerns me. So you really need to know your suppliers, I think. That's probably a better Ben question than it is for me.
Yeah.
But as a practitioner, I want to know my sources and be able to trust the sources. When I look at one, that says it has green lip mussel in it, sometimes it's like the 15th thing down on the, I'm exaggerating some, but it's way down on the list. So there's not very much in there. It's just on the label because it looks good, I guess. But if it doesn't smell like the Perna, it's probably not got very much in it.
Just to add to that, PJ, yeah, a good question. Yeah, if choosing a brand, obviously there's a lot of GLM supplements out on the market, but consumers they like to do a lot of research. There's a lot of education out there on GLM now. So generally we'll find now that a consumer will trust an ingredient that's branded, that has the clinicals behind it. So very easy, look at the label. If it's a branded GLM, they can go straight to the research, whereas if it's just GLM, Pernicanaculus, there's no logo or brand associated with that, then that's when you start asking the questions, actually, what am I buying here? So I would definitely trust a branded ingredients. And we're seeing that with Chondroid and MSM. A lot of the raw material manufacturers are doing a lot of clinical research now. So yeah, I mean, yeah, if you've got a branded GLM, then you're going to be steps way ahead of your competitors because you've got that trust, authenticity straight off the bat.
That's fine. Uh, where can we buy Aroma GLM wholesale? Is there a distributor?
Yeah, that question under confidentiality. Obviously, we've got a few distributors which I won't mention over this platform. So if that, yeah, just reach out to us at Aroma at our email, and we can get in touch and let you know.
Excellent. What research or innovation may we see come to market to increase benefits of GLM?
Not sure I understand the question. Are they asking what?
Yeah.
I think they're asking, what is there any other use on the horizon that is being researched?
Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah. So just on that, PJ, I can answer that. I mean, obviously,
okay.
Aroma. We try to stay ahead of innovation. We've got a few projects on the go where obviously the market is wanting a lot quicker responses. They want to see their pet to stop limping a lot quicker. So we're obviously all about absorption. How quick can we get that GLM oil or GLM powder to work a lot faster than traditional, the time it's taking now. So yeah, we're looking at some innovation pipelines right now. So there's some exciting products which we will be releasing to market hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months, once we have a few more clinical studies behind some of the work we're doing. But yeah, look, obviously I can't go into that too
And
much.
I can add a little bit to that. I have not used a nonsteroidal in my practice in about 30 years. Um, and I have had animals that came in that were functionally carrying a leg. If the owners will give us the latitude and give us a few days to use the Perna first, it can be mind blowing how rapidly it can repair. One of them was my son's dog, who clearly had done some damage, and within a couple of days, on nothing but Perna, was full throttle was using the leg. And so even though you cannot make claims, it obviously made him infinitely more comfortable, and to the point where he was using a leg that he was packing. He was carrying it. He's three-legged lame. And so, who knows what he did? He's an Australian Shepherd. He has no sense of self-preservation whatsoever. So, if you can get that kind of a response in less than a week without artificially holding down the inflammation with a drug, they knew when I was in vet school that nonsteroidals retarded bone healing in racehorses. That was over 40 years ago. So, we definitely need to give owners, prescribers, veterinarians, retailers better options for the patients or for the animals that are looking for more comfort and more repair. Non-steroidals do not repair anything.
Is it recommended to use GLM alongside fish oil, or is it preferable to use it isolated?
Well, as a practitioner, I would use the green lip mussel oil with the powder, with the full fat powder, just to broaden the anti-inflammatories. I'm not that. I guess I have not really been that fond of like fish oil, because it's so much more. It's generally EPA, DHA, and sometimes the quality of those isn't great. They'll sometimes have proteins. There are some good ones on the market, but I just don't use them. I would probably use the green lip mussel oil in conjunction with, like as an adjunct or a synergist with the full fat green lip mussel powder. But yeah, I'm not that fond of just fish oil. So just my opinion. Don't for what that's worth.
Thank you. Uh, are there concerns regarding oxidation in full fat GLM due to the high amount of lipids?
That would be a good question for Ben.
Thanks, BJ. No, there shouldn't be any concerns whatsoever. I mean, once the GLM is processed, it's going into foil bags. Oxidation's minimized, and then when it goes to our clients around the world, then once it's further processed, obviously vitamin E or some form of natural antioxidant is incorporated. So yeah, look, we're looking at a 3-year shelf life, so no concerns whatsoever. So yeah.
And the next question actually touched on the same thing. It was basically what was the shelf stability with the full fat GLM powder?
Around that 36 months, 3 years.
Very good.
Like any other
Awesome.
supplement, as long as it's kept sealed out of sunlight, all the storage instructions. Yeah.
Does the dosage change when using the oil and powder together versus in isolation?
I would say probably yes. But clinically, I have had such good luck with the full fat product that I have not ever actually added. I guess if I had a really critical case and was given the opportunity, I might add the oil to it, but I probably would use less. I'd probably use lower amounts of it if I was using it with the full fat powder, just because there's already oil in the full fat powder. So I don't know, Ben, have they done any side by studies with both of them together?
GLM and the oil, not that I'm aware of. Not that
Okay.
I'm aware of them. Yeah.
We've had such good luck with Perna in over the years that if there was one available, I'm sure I probably would use it just to see. But it's nearly a miracle sometimes. So
Yeah.
but it'd be a great selling point, I would say, to have the combination, just because it would be positioned somewhat differently in the market. It would set it aside from the ones that are just just the perna or just the green lip mussel. So I think it'd be probably a good selling point. But I don't know, I would say you probably might be able to use less of both of them if you had that kind of the addition of the oil to it, because it has so many um, of the components that kind of downregulate the COX LOX, the MMPs. Those are primarily coming out of the oil fraction.
Thank you. Before I get to the next question, there was a question earlier about cost of the ingredient, and Ben, I'm going to invite that person who asked that question to go ahead and reach out to you directly.
Yes, please, Bill. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. And then a lot of co-packers say that green lip mussel is a contaminant, as it's a shellfish. What can we tell co-packers to improve their confidence?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, we've been selling, GLM for over 40 years worldwide. We've never had an issue with co-packers. Like any raw ingredient, obviously if it's shellfish, they'll just have to have obviously no crop contamination during their production lines. And even if it's not shellfish, regardless, for non-shellfish, I mean, you have to clean and sanitize between production lines anyway. So, yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to use it. As I say, it's a very beneficial, and yeah, a lot of the co-packers are using it now. So please go ahead and order. I don't see any issues there.
Very good. And then you've talked a lot about joint support as the main use of the ingredient. Is there any secondary or tertiary uses that you can talk about?
Yeah, well, we talked about some of those other things like heart support and um, brain support, skin support. It's such a broad grouping of nutrients. If the we've used it for many, many, many years for animals that had, bladder issues, because one of the primary glycosaminoglycans is called N-acetylglucosamine, and it is one of the primary coders of the mucosal membranes. So it has, and it there is anecdotal evidence from people that have said that it reduced their stress and anxiety levels. Anecdotal. There's no studies. I've looked, but when you repair the integrity of the gut, it also coats the bladder. So we stumbled on that many years ago on a cat with bladder issues that were chronic bladder issues, and we gave a product that had the perna in it, completely cleared up, completely. And we've been dealing with it for about a year or more. And then there were studies done a couple of years after that were talking about injectable glycans for cats with bladder issues. And I thought it was the perna. That's what fixed that, was the perna. So we've used it for eons for that. And because that N-acetylglucosamine can kind of calm the system down a little bit, there's another, that's in cats and women, they associate bladder issues sometimes with stress and anxiety. So no, can't make the claims because they're not, there's no studies on the N-acetylglucosamine, but in clinical practice, it certainly seems to be helpful. I'm actually intrigued with the brain stuff that's coming out, the studies that they're looking at. Every time you turn around, there's another study on the perna. It's just a remarkable resource, and it's so broad. If you look at just the components of it, if they're using those glycans to build scaffolding to grow stem cells, I wondered years ago why it seemed to have the capacity for improving repair mechanisms. And that may be part of it, is that it's the framework on which tissues are built.
And with that, we're that was the last of our questions, and we are coming up at the top of the hour. I will go ahead and turn things over to Jenny Parker.
Thanks,
Um,
Bill.
Actually, I apologize. A question just came in. This will be the last one. Um, uh, the question was sustainability. Is there a resource sustainable for increased production?
Is this resource sustainable for increased production?
Yes, my apologies. Yeah.
Yeah, PJ, maybe I'll take that. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's your question.
yeah, Greenland mussels. It's one of the most sustainable protein sources, omega-3 resources in the world. I think it came up on the top 3 most sustainable resources. It's not like we're farming. Yes, we are marine farming, but we don't have to feed the Greenland mussels like they do over in other countries where they're in a big pond. They're out in the open seas. They're feeding on phytoplankton. They're feeding off the brown kelp that swims around, that's at the surface. So natural feeders, yeah, so very sustainable, and we have room to grow as well. So I hope that answers that question.
Very good. Thank you. And with that, we'll turn it over to Jenny Parker.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to give everybody a reminder that today's webinar will be archived on the NASC website. That will be at www.nasc.cc/webinars. Also, be sure to watch your email for announcements about the upcoming NASC annual conference in May at the Arizona Grand Resort and Spa in Phoenix, Arizona. And attendee registration will be opening up in the next couple of weeks. And finally, on behalf of NASC, I would like to say a big thank you to Dr. Broadfoot for sharing this presentation and to Ben for jumping in on an excellent Q&A. And thanks to everybody who joined us for this valuable learning opportunity. We hope to see you next month for our February webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thanks, Tam. Keep well.